What's up, you guys, and welcome to day 4 of working on our Valentine's Day sweater. We did in fact take a long break on the sweater just because when I started it, I went fully in. I was crocheting it for hours and hours on end and I got burnt out. So today we're getting back into it, and we did finish both the front panel and the back panel. I do want to show you guys those really quick. So here is what the back panel is looking like, and here's the front panel. As you can see, we do have a large space for the neckline just because, as we discussed in day 3, we are going to be putting a red collar around it. But I honestly don't really feel like working on the collar now. I kind of want to just jump into crocheting, and as you can probably tell, we have to do the sleeves still. For the sweater, I was really conflicted on how I wanted to do the sleeves. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do them balloon style, straight sleeves, and I do really feel like sleeves make or break the sweater. But ultimately, I decided that I want to go with straight, kind of baggy sleeves, so that's what we're going to do today. And I do already have my yarn caked up. I know we've talked about the yarn details a bunch, but I do want to go over them just so you guys are aware of what we're using. So the pink and the white are going to be the KC Essential Cotton from JOANN, and the colors Rose Garden and Cream, and then the red in the middle is the Hobby Lobby I Love This Cotton in the color red. But let's get into crocheting the sleeve now. So when I crochet sleeves, I really do like to work from the cuff up. So starting with the cuff, I do really want it to look like how the bottom of our front and back panel look. So this is how it looks. Like we talked about, we did just do back loop only single crochets to create the ribbing. The only thing is I don't want the ribbing on the cuff to be this large. I kind of want it to be a miniature version of this. I think it would look a lot cuter that way. So we just got to figure out how many stitches we want to do. So let's count this one to kind of see how much we want to size it down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so these rows are 13 stitches. I think I want to size it down to maybe 10 or 11 and kind of go from there. And like we discussed, we are just winging this, so this may or may not work out the way we want it to, and we might just have to frog the sleeves entirely, but we're trusting the process. That's probably one of my favorite and least favorite things about freehanding, is that you kind of just do whatever you want, but then you do whatever you want and sometimes it doesn't work out, but when it does, it feels great. Okay, I think we're gonna go with 10 or 11 stitches. And for this chain row, I am gonna be using a 4mm hook, but once we actually go into the stitches, I like to size down 1/2 millimeter, so we're gonna go in with a 3.5 for the actual ribbing. So I actually can't find my 3.5mm hook, which is really upsetting because it is my favorite hook of all time. So today we're going to settle for the 3.25. And we're just going to go in and create back loop only singles just like we did for the ribbing on the bottom of the front and back panel. So I've done a few rows of the back loop only single crochet, and I'm honestly really wishing I had my 3.5mm hook right now because I am trying to work this project a little loosely since I only have my 3.25 and I do want to use a 3.5 on the other sleeve, and it's just looking a little wonky, I'll be real. But really quickly, let me show you guys what it looks like. It's a little wonky, just a little bit. But hopefully we keep going and it looks a little less wonky. I feel like it looks mainly wonky just because we sized down our hook a little bit more than we usually would. I went from a 4mm chain to a 3.25 for the stitches rather than when I would only size down to a 3.5. Okay, so the ribbing is now big enough to go around my wrist. It is a snug fit, but it works. The only thing about this though is because we are working straight sleeves, we need it to be able to fit basically over my entire arm. And obviously your wrist is going to be a lot smaller than your bicep or your upper arm. So we're going to have to keep going until it's a little on the baggy side. What I will say though is we aren't completely making these straight sleeves. I do want the cuffs to not be completely baggy. So what we're going to do is make the cuff a little on the shorter side and then do slight increases throughout the sleeve to make it fit my upper arm in a nice and easier way. Okay, so here is what the cuff looks like, and it does seem to be maybe a little bit bigger than how I may want it. This is what it looks like, but I do tend to always make my ribbing too small, so I thought it was a better idea to try to size up and hope that it works. But we aren't going to attach the cuff together with a single crochet because we are not going to be working this cuff in the round. Like I said, even though we're doing straight sleeves, they're still going to have a slight increase to them just to kind of account for the increase in my arm. So I'd rather just work it in regular rows like this and connect it all at the end. One of the aspects of balloon sleeves that I want to incorporate into my straight sleeves is making the sleeve portion a little bit bigger than my cuff portion. It's not going to be as big as if we did a balloon sleeve, but it's still going to give that nice cinched cuff look. So to do that, we're going to turn our project and work single crochets down this side just to kind of turn the cuff from working upwards to working this way like it should be. And for each row, I like to add in 1 stitch, and we're going to add in an increase in about every 4th stitch just to kind of create that little bit of a balloon effect. And I forgot, we are going to be sizing up to a 4mm hook again, just because we are going to be working the moss stitch, and the moss stitch can be really, really tight, and we don't want it to kind of shrink as we continue working the project. So this is how the first row looks. As you can see, it's bumpy because we did do those increases, but now we're going to switch over and add in our color pink, because like we have in the front and back panel, after we do the ribbing, we go into pink, white, red, white, pink, white, red, white. And to add in my extra yarn, I really like to create a slip knot and add it into the last stitch of the row. So I'm actually going to undo the last red stitch. We're going to add it in as the last yarn over to the row. And I just chain 1 to secure it. Now with the pink yarn, we are going to add in a back loop only moss stitch. And the reason I'm doing a back loop only moss stitch as opposed to doing a regular moss stitch is because by doing a back loop only, it creates this nice line right here of the red, and I really like that because it separates out the red cuff from the rest of the project, and I think it just looks more professional and neat. And if you haven't seen what the moss stitch looks like before, let me give you a little preview from one of my panels. And as you can see, it is non-see-through, and it kind of looks like knit, but it has a bit of a different look to it, which I really like, and it is super stretchy. But we're going to continue with this row, and then I'm going to give you guys a better look at that line I'm talking about. So here's what the first row of the moss stitch is looking like with that line, and it is a little bit hard to tell just because the moss stitch is such a small stitch, but that's what it looks like. And we're going to keep working the same pattern that we did for the panels, which is 6 pinks, 2 whites, and 4 reds. So we're going to continue the pink moss stitch for about another 5 rows. The only concern I have is when we're going to start doing the increases for the sleeve. Like I said, I don't want to have too many increases, but I also don't want to have too little that it barely makes a difference. And to create increases for the moss stitch, in the first stitch you're going to place 2 single crochets, and in the last stitch you're going to place a chain and a single crochet. So it basically makes the entire row backwards, where in the beginning of the row you do a single crochet and a chain, and in the end you do 2 single crochets together. You're just doing the exact opposite. I'm about done with the pink row, and I'm about to add in our white color change. So let's do that together. And like usual, I am a center pull girly. It's also why I love yarn cakes so much. I feel like they just have the most satisfying center pull. Okay, but we're going to add it in. Just like before, we're going to add in with the slip knot. I still don't understand how people don't do the slip knot. I just get so worried that it's not going to be secure at all, and that the project is going to slowly unravel itself. Now, following the same pattern that we did for the front panel and the back panel, we're just going to do some rows of white and then transition to red. I'm honestly a little bit nervous about how these sleeves are going to come out. I definitely feel like sleeves are probably the hardest thing for me when it comes to crochet clothing. I feel like they always come out just really baggy whenever I make them, and I'm really trying harder to get a lot better at them. So we have finished the first set of the white stripe, and just want to show you guys a little close up. I think it looks pretty good so far. Let me show you guys what it looks like this. I am a little nervous that we may be doing too many increase rows, just because I feel like this is coming out a lot more than maybe it should, especially since we started the cuff off really wide. I don't know, we're just gonna keep going. So I'm now working on the final red row, and I also added in an increase here, but I will say we're not going to increase all the way up until the end. We're going to start looking into how it looks, how wide it is once we get up a lot higher, and see if we still want to do increases or not. Here's how our red row is doing. We do have one more white stripe, and then we're restarting the entire process, so pink, white, red, white, and I'm going to come back when it's time to kind of change it up. Okay, you guys, we are back, and we've gotten to a good point of the sleeve. I do want to show you my progress really quick. So here's what the sleeve is looking like. I don't believe we're done with it yet. We do need to kind of take measurements to see how long we need the sleeve to be, but this is at a good stopping point for now. Let's measure how large this is and then find out how large it needs to be. So I actually have my measuring tape on me this time, which is great. I always lose it. We're measuring at about 15.5 inches. Let me show y'all really quick. This is what it looks like, and yes, my yarn has been getting tangled and all over the place. And now let me walk you through how to find out how long your sleeves need to be. First thing we need to do is measure our wingspan. Not fully our wingspan, basically wrist to wrist, and that tells us how long our sleeves and our panels need to be. So what I like to do is put my measuring tape as far or as close to the wrist as possible, and then hold it down with my finger, and then I just take the other side and pull all the way across like this, and I try to put it like across my chest to kind of keep it as a straight line, and we're at about 52 inches. You want to make it a little bit bigger than that just so it has a little bit more slouch, a little bit more give. So we're probably going to do 54 inches. Now we have to measure either the front or back panel. And I say either or because the front panel and the back panel have the same exact width. So while we're measuring the length of the sleeves with the back panel and the front panel, we're measuring the width. So we're going to go off of our front panel. This is what it looks like again. And we're going to measure this. So this is showing at about 20 inches, 21 inches. Let me show you. Here's what it's looking like. I know I'm not doing this the best right now, but I did measure it on the table, so we know it's good. And with my wingspan or my wrist to wrist being about 54 inches, I do know that I want to make it a little bit longer just because I do want my straight sleeves to sit a little bit over my wrist, probably about here. So let's just add 1 more inch to each of those. So 54 plus 1 inch, 55 plus another inch, it's going to be 56. So because our panel is measuring about 21 to 20 inches, I actually know that when I block it, I do want to kind of widen it out. So let's just call it 22 inches. So we're going to do 56 minus 22 inches for our blocked out sweater. So 56 minus 22 is going to be 34. And then 34 divided by 2 for each sleeve is going to be 17. So we want each sleeve to be 17 inches. And as I said, we are going to block these, but the thing about blocking these is I don't really want to block the length of these just because, as you can see, when you stretch them out, it does get holey, and I really don't want this sweater to look holey at all. I do want it to have a nice warm sweater look to it. And with these sleeves being 15 inches right now, I do need to add about 2 more inches in length. But what I will say is I think I'm good with stopping the increases here. As you can see, we've kind of widened it out a good amount, and I don't really want to widen it anymore. So we're going to stop here, and we're just going to continue doing regular rows of the moss stitch. And if possible, I really do want to try to end these sleeves out on a pink row. I feel like it would just look so much better since pink is the primary color of the sweater. It would look really good to have that be the color we sew into the panels. I've just started on my first row of pink since we stopped doing the increases, and I'm going to measure now because I really am hoping that I can finish on pink, like I said, for my final row. As we talked about, we were on 15 inches prior to stopping the increases. Okay, so we are hitting, almost 17 inches. Let me show you. Is what we're looking like, and I think I'm just gonna do 1 more row and finish it off. I was kind of hoping that we can do a whole block of pink, but that's definitely gonna hit more of the 18-inch mark, and I really don't want to go any farther than 17, so we're gonna do 1 more row and be done with the sleeve. We finally finished the sleeve. We did hit 17 inches, and this is what it's looking like. We were able to end on pink. I just did about 2 rows. I am thinking of adding in a 3rd row just because having more rows is better than having less rows, because obviously if I have more rows I can easily frog it, but if I have less rows I'm gonna have to add in more yarn and continue on. But this is where we're gonna leave off for the day. I am a little upset that we did not get to work on the second sleeve, but at least we know how to do the next sleeve. But I am going to work on the next sleeve off camera, so then in day 5 we can focus on the collar, sewing everything together, and blocking it. But for now I am going to stand up and show you guys what the sleeve looks like, just so you have a better idea of what it's going to look like when everything's all attached. Here's a better visual of the sleeve. I don't have enough stitch markers to show you guys like a real good try on, and I don't want to sew it up right now, but this is what we're looking like. I feel like it's kind of giving like Valentine's Day candy cane, if that makes sense. But I think it's really cute, and I hope it comes out the way I want it to, because I do not have the best track record when it comes to freehanding sleeves. But thank you guys so much for sticking around and crocheting with me today. I had a lot of fun working on this Valentine's Day sweater, but I'm also ready to sew it all together and get it all done. So in day 5, that's what we're going to be working on. We're going to be sewing everything together and creating the collar, and then blocking it. So you'll get to see my entire blocking process, because that is one of the main questions I get on my Instagram and my TikTok. But again, thank you guys for watching today's video. We will be posting day 5 soon, so I hope to see you then.